either raise your hand or just blurt it out. We're all family here, so just blurt it out. That's probably the easier way to do it. And we are recording this session, so you will be able to view this on our YouTube channel later today. Any questions before we get started? I don't have a lot of slides, quite honestly, but it's a pretty deep topic. We got a lot to discuss. So not a lot of fancy pictures and all that fun stuff, but a lot of good discussion. So let's talk about pre-qualifying your seller. One thing you need to do nowadays, and this conversation changes as the market changes. Right now, you need to find out if the seller is even serious about selling their home. And you try to do that up front so you can save yourself some time. Save yourself some effort. And in real estate, I always tell people, and I've told many of you this, and the lady that kind of helped me along when I first started, as a top producer, and she told me to always put a dollar amount on your time. Okay, your time is worth something, so know what that is. So if you've got somebody that wants you to come over and look at a property and give them a price and they're never going to list with you, then you're wasting your time. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to figure out what's their motivation. Okay, why are they selling? Why are they asking you to come by and look at their house? Are they asking you to do that so they can get a price and put it as for sale by owner? Anybody had that happen recently? When it happens, it will sting. It will sting. So try to prepare yourself. Just do a little bit of conversation with them. Make sure you understand. Make sure all the parties are there. Okay, they're going to be selling the property. Talk to them. Are they going anywhere? I would not give them a price if they don't sign a listing agreement with you, because you're not supposed to give them a price if they don't sign a listing agreement with you, right? If you give them a price, they don't need you. Let's be honest. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question real quick?
Absolutely.
So does that mean that you should not be doing a like a CMA for them before
That's
you've signed a
exactly
listing
right. A
agreement?
CMA is for your
Okay.
clients. Clients are
Okay.
people that you have with an agency agreement. Yeah.
Okay.
Because again, you do a CMA for them. What do they need you for?
Yeah.
You're giving them
Um,
everything. And I've done it. I've done it before. I'm not going to act like I've never done it. I've done it.
yeah.
Um,
I had one guy, it was a referral from a family member. I was going there to wholesale it because it was kind of in rundown condition. But then
mhm.
when I got there, it looked like, it would be suitable for the market. But he was adamant that he did not want to list it with a real estate agent. And so, I gave him my price as a wholesaler, cash offer, all that kind of stuff. And then followed up with him. And then he ended up going to list it with another agent. And I mean, I let him know up front that I was an agent. And so I was just wondering if there's any way to, avoid that kind of situation.
How soon after did he list it with someone else?
Um, I went there about 3 weeks ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
And then I just found out from uh, one of my friends who lives down in Mount Holly area that it was under contract a
Oh
couple
wow.
days ago. So I assume it was, not that long ago that went on market.
I don't know how to 100% avoid that situation, Taylor. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things when we were taught how to do contact for sale by owners, one of the if you know anything about for sale by owners, they're going to get bombarded. There's a guy out on Rogers Lake Road that's got his house for sale, and you may know who I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about, Taylor. You've seen the house. Melissa, you're
Yep.
shaking your head. Y'all have seen it. I feel sorry for that guy because I can imagine he's getting trounced with real estate agents. The problem is he will hear from them once and never hear from them again.
Yeah.
The people that win those listings are the ones that contact him twice or 3 times, stay in touch with him, check in, see how they're doing, see if they have any questions. So if we're talking about people that are looking to wholesale or people that don't show any interest in working with a real estate agent, then I would have some kind of follow up with them on a
Okay.
pretty regular basis. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, call them, like I said, call them and say, hey, you've had any showings? Because I had a listing and we had 3 showings and already got it under contract. Is yours under contract yet? I don't know. Start the
Okay.
conversation off like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Check
Cool.
in.
Thanks.
What's that?
Oh, I said thanks.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Um, Make sure all the decision makers will be present. This is going to help you to understand what their motivation is, and also make sure they're on the same page. Right? In North Carolina, how many do you have to sell?
2.
2, at least 2, right? The people on the deed.
Right.
Make sure they're there and they are all on the same page. I had a beautiful house in Concord 2 years ago, and I was really excited to go list it because I knew it was going to be a quick sale. And we went there, and I'm walking through with the husband, and the wife is just in his ear the whole time, completely contradicting what he said. They were not on the same page at all. And again, if you put a dollar amount on my time, um, with the trip I went down there, with the phone calls I made with them, I've spent quite a lot of money on that. Of course, that's money on paper, but still, you got to put a dollar amount on your time. And I wasted time because they were not on the same page. It also allows you to price the home to sell if you understand their motivation. If you go there and they tell you they're moving to Charleston, they want to be there before their kids start school. You can price it pretty aggressively because you know their motivation. They're not going to be this person that says, well, let's price it $50,000 over market value. And, you got to have some wiggle room. You got to have some room to come down, is one of their favorite things to say. This takes that out of the equation. Understand their expectations. Understand what motivates them. Find out where they're going. Okay. If they're wanting you to sell their house, well, where are you going to live at? Because if they're going to have to pay for an apartment or they don't have anywhere to go, then you kind of wonder, why are you selling? Or we're just testing the market. All right. Then my mindset shifts. That makes sense. And
Yes.
then sorry, somebody have a question? The last thing on this slide, properly set your expectations. It's one of the worst things we as realtors do, is set our expectations with our sellers. They're going to ask you, how quickly can you get it sold? And I never tell them. I'm not going to tell them, well, average house on the market. Well, I'll tell them that the average house on the market in your neighborhood sells in 3 days. And then I will preface that by saying there's no guarantee that your house will sell that quickly. Set the expectations up front, but don't paint yourself in a corner. Set the expectations of what you're going to do for them, what time frames you're going to do it in, how showings are going to be handled, how home inspections are going to be handled. Set those expectations up front so nothing's a surprise for people. If you think about it, and you may have to repeat yourself constantly, because you think about it, a lot of the older generation has been in their homes for 20, 30 years. They haven't sold a home recently. So keep them aware of what's going to happen. Don't let it happen and then they're asking you questions. Okay, that'll make the transition and everything much, much smoother for your client and yourself. Let them know how many people's going to be at a home inspection, who's allowed to come in, how long it's going to take. Set those expectations up front. Any questions so far?
Hey,
All right.
Chris,
Yes, Sheena.
when you're working with more than one seller and you are communicating with them, they are, let's say, in the same page. With those back and forward emails, do you need to send both of them at the same, well, at the same time or not? Same communication all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
I have
I try to so everybody's on the same page and there's no um, miscommunication between the two.
and every email should be sent to both. I mean, any decision making.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you're going to need both of them on board when it comes to closing.
Yeah, I found it a bit difficult if there is a bit of no communication between the two sellers. It's sometimes a bit hard to follow up that if
Give
they
me
are
an
not in the same
example
page.
what you're talking about.
If there is a bit of problem in the paradise, let's say.
Okay,
Yeah. To
Melissa, I could get
coordinate.
you to teach a class on that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Tina, I still would just to keep your just to cover your assets, just to cover yourself. What were you going to say, Melissa?
I was going to say, especially if they're divorced, I never want to pit one against the other. It's always you want to make sure that they both are hearing the same information so they can't turn and target you somehow. So especially in divorce situations.
Yeah. Yep. Good question, Sheena. Thank you. The last line I put in my notes for this slide, and it goes back to what I said about putting a dollar amount on your time, is don't work for free. Okay, so we are not, as real estate agents, not tour guides. We're not volunteers. If you're going to be a volunteer, you're going to quickly find out that this is an expensive business and you're going to be out of it really quickly. Here's a couple ways to help understand your motivation. Couple questions you can ask, and I pulled this off of a website. How long have you been thinking about putting your home up for sale? Do you want me to prepare a CMA which outlines your current market value for your home? And now this question, I'm gonna go back to number 2, and it's a conversation we just had with Taylor. I'm not gonna send this to them if they don't sign a listing agreement, and I will let them know that. Number 3, a few of these buyers will be ready to buy within just days. Is that too fast for you? That's a beautiful question, especially nowadays, because that will really uncover their true motivation. Because as you know, they've got to be ready to move ASAP. Number 4, after we meet and you have the opportunity to review our home selling system, when are you ready to list? Now, does anybody in here have a home selling system? Alicia, I see you shaking your head. I don't have a home selling system either. I know our old firm provided us with one, and it's probably not a bad idea to get one. And when I say a system, I mean just a comprehensive plan of what you're going to do for them during the listing process. Something in writing you can leave with them. A lot of people like to see, touch, and feel things. So to leave them a folder with here's what to expect and here's what we do for you and whatnot. Some people even will list out their fees. So I will do A, B, and C for you for a 5% listing or a 5% commission. I'll do D, E, and F, and I'll get 6%. And I'll do, what did I leave on? G, H, and I, and I'll do 7%. If you can put a value to that, I think it's great. It also helps you. You can present that to every buyer, and you can justify why you charge someone 5% versus 6%. If you can't justify that, then you open yourself up for fair housing violation. Okay, so if I'm charging Taylor 5%, but I charge Melissa 6% for no reason other than Taylor's a better negotiator, then we're talking about Melissa is a different sex. Could that be construed as a fair housing violation? So putting your prices in like a, I guess you call it a la carte style is not a bad idea. And it may help you get more percentage. It may help you get more than 6%. Who knows? Any questions so far on pre-qualifying your seller?
Hey, Chris, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you are talking about the putting a cost on like ABC or DEF, can you give us an example of, I mean, the normal, well, I won't say normal, but the protocol for selling a home would be, we can advertise, we can, do open houses, we can do this. What other things can you give us an opportunity to hear what you have done for your sellers?
So
Beyond that,
I'm going to start with let's just use 5% as an example. So I'm going to stick a sign in the ground, put it on the MLS, and pray for you that it sells, right? And of course, I'm not going to put that on there, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, the lowest is going to be the very bare bones, right? And I'm going to take a picture with my camera, and my camera sucks. I'm not going to put that on there, but you know what I'm saying. The 6% is I'm going to hire a professional photographer. I'm going to have it professionally measured. You see, it's value added. And maybe this is 7%, but these are some different things you can do. I'm going to have aerials done. Next Door Photography does great aerials with lot lines drawn out for it. Professional brochures done, professionally staged. And we're talking about the upper tier, the 7% or so.
Okay.
So those are just a couple of things, Deanna.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Courtney just asked, who do y'all recommend for professional measuring? I've used Jordan Flair, who is with Measure Up, and Donnie Lassiter, but I cannot think of Donnie's company. Can somebody tell me what Donnie's company is? I can't think of it. Home Team is Donnie's real estate company. Is that what his measuring company is called as well, Susan?
I'm not sure about the measuring company.
Okay, hold on one second. I got another one that Tricia Strickland just sent me last night. Lighthouse Visual. Lighthouse Visual will do measurements for you for $40 with a floor plan. $40 is dirt cheap. Now, I don't know if you have to use them for photographs or what, but that is Lighthouse Visual. I like to do my own measurements unless it's really a large house or a funky house, or the house Laura and I closed on Irish Potato. It had a basement, and some was heated, some was not. You got questions like that, spend the money to get it done right. Melissa, you had a question?
I was gonna say Next Door will do a combo deal where they'll do measurements with a really beautiful floor plan and their photos as a package. I found that to be I like really good floor plans myself.
Yeah, that's it. Those are great. You think about it. If you say, I'll do your listing for, say you do all your listings for 5%, but I will do yours for 6 and add in, I'll pay for professional photography and measurements. I mean, Melissa, on a 2,500 square foot house, what will that run you? 250 maybe? Yeah. You're muted. I didn't hear you.
Maybe even a little less than that
Yeah.
for 2,500. It gets up there over 3,000, you know, in the mid to high 200s, but it's less than that, I think,
But yeah, so my point being, you're going to have it professionally measured, professional photography, floor plans. That's a lot of value added. And I'm going to get a whole % more. And I might have to pay $250, $300 maybe. So you're making money by adding that value. So it's a good, not a bad thing to do.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
I used Measure of America. They do 2 type of measurement, the plain one, the standard one, and the more high-end one, and they charge like $85 or $100 depending on which one do you use. Something that I didn't really like is that their measurement was lower, the square footage was lower than the tax record. And then I was feeling a kind of bad because, you know, you prefer to put a higher one out there. But anyway, because they did it with me and I uploaded in the MLS, I decided to go with them. But there was a, you know, there was a difference like 75 square footage.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when that happens? Which one do you go with?
Oh, I'm going with the professional measuring company. You can't trust what's in tax records.
Got you.
Tax records are almost like, I hate to say approximation, but approximation. You know, they're wildly inaccurate. Number 5, where do you want to move to after you sell? Maybe you can get a buyer client out of it. Not a bad question to ask. It can also help, again, help find out the motivation. If they tell you, well, we don't know, I mean, that's going to raise a red flag. How serious are you really thinking about moving if you don't know where you're going? And I just told you your house is going to sell in you know, over a weekend. So again, you're just trying to dig in and understand their motivation. How soon do you want to move? That's a big question these days, and it better be 45 days because you're getting ready to move as soon as I stick a sign in the ground, right? If one of my buyers offers you the price you want, are you ready to accept the offer? Again, just a different way to phrase pretty much the same question. You just ask, how soon do you want to move? What price range are you willing to accept? That way you know if they're serious or not, right? You know if they're in the same ballpark or you got some splaining to do to them about what reality's like in this market. This is, I don't know if this is really one that helps you understand their motivation, but it's a decent question to ask, and you like to see, I like to get into their psyche. You know, are they emotionally attached to the house? Or are they just ready to move? Or how are they thinking about it? You know, are they done? They're done. They want to move out. They're ready to move to Charleston. Or are they so emotionally attached to it, you're going to have problems when you get it under contract. I have ran into those folks as well. One of my pre-licensing students told me last night, she was under contract on a house, in 3 days before closing, the seller had gotten a divorce and the kids were crying because they didn't want to move. So the seller told her she wasn't going to sell the house because they were emotionally attached to the house. Now that started another conversation, as you can imagine, but yeah, find out what their emotional attachment is. And then the last one is our meeting will require about an hour or two. Is that okay? That's just a, courtesy call. Any questions on understanding motivation or pre-qualifying your sellers? All right. Do your homework is the next one. This is something you've got to do. So if somebody agrees to let you list their house, there's some steps you got to take. And if I missed anything, please, folks, pipe up here. Why do you have to pull the deed?
To see if there's any heirs or anything on the property that might not be disclosed.
Yeah, that's a good one. Make sure the people telling you they want to sell the house is actually the people that can sell the house, right?
And that you have all parties required to sell the home.
Yep, exactly right. All parties required. So some of y'all know Lisa Crowder. Lisa had an example probably 4 years ago where the people that called her to list the house were not actually on the deed. They were the son. The guy was the son of the mother who was on the deed, and the mother didn't know anything about it. So she pulled the deed and figured that out really quickly. Pull the septic permit. Pull the septic permit. Make sure you're going to advertise a true 3-bedroom, okay? Make sure you're going to advertise if it's septic permit allows for 3-bed, make sure you're advertising a 3-bedroom and not a 5-bedroom. Because Uncle Johnny told you it was 5-bedroom. Be surprised how many times we see that. Pulling a septic permit is your responsibility as a buyer's agent and a seller's agent. Okay. Everybody know how to pull a septic permit?
No.
Basically, all you do on the county, whatever county you're in, you contact that county's environmental, what's it called? Environmental, oh gosh. Cabarrus County CHA is Cabarrus Health Alliance. Rowan County is just Rowan County Environmental. Environmental, somebody help me, what's it called? Environmental Department, let's just go with that. Environmental Health Department, there you go, Courtney, thank you. You send them an email and they, like Rowan County will send it to you right back, typically the same day. CHA might take you a little bit longer. And they will tell you if there's one on record. A lot of times there's not one on record. What do you do if there's not one on record?
You just have to list on the listing that there's not one on file, correct? Or then you have to do an inspection?
Nope. The Rowan County guy told me, he said, and pardon my language, he's like, I asked him when it came up in one of my listings, I'm like, so what do I do? There's nothing on record. And the house was built in 1920 and the same family had lived there. So not a lot of records. And typically counties only keep their records for about 8 years. And again, pardon my language, he said, I don't give a shit what you do. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna list it as a 15-bed house then, cool. So make sure you, what your folks are telling you, your clients are telling you is what the records show. And a septic permit is going to show you on there how many beds it's approved for. Any questions about septic permits?
If it's on like city sewer, but there's still a septic tank, on the property, is that something you still have to disclose?
If it's not being used?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do, because it's a material fact that it's
Okay.
still in the ground, and that can be an environmental hazard if they don't have it taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was Kelly said that if there's not one on record, just put it in the notes that there's, and make sure you get an email so you have it in writing. Just put it in the agent notes that there's no septic permit on record. Look up the zoning. You can find this on each county's GIS site. It's unfortunately they're all different. There's different ways to find them. Cabarrus County recently changed the way they did them, and it's terrible. Rowan County's not much better. But make sure that your folks are using the property correctly. Make sure you're not selling a property, especially if you got commercial listings. Make sure it's being used properly. And then look up the HOAs and CCRs. CCRs, those you can find. Sometimes you can find them on the MLS. Sometimes you can find them through the realist tax records through the MLS.
I've run into that, on the GIS websites, that it's, hard to find the zoning. Is that something that, you would have to call the city for if it's not available on the website?
Oh, it's going to be on the website. They have to put it out there. Now, being able to decipher it may be a different story. But it's
Okay.
all of it's out there, yeah.
Okay.
But no, you can call the city planning office, give them the parcel ID, and they'll tell you what it's zoned for.
Okay. I guess that was my question, because I mean, I don't even know what R1
Yeah,
that's always
with residential, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with zoning, but typically single family residence is allowed in pretty much most zonings. Okay, so unless it's zoned industrial or something crazy, then it's allowed. We see a lot of them in Kannapolis, like along South Main Street or Lane Street. They're zoned for office institutional or OI is what you'll see the zoning as. And single family residence is allowed in those.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's just something I've run into, like, because I know sometimes it's different with, the road frontage and the lot square foot per house built or something. So I guess that's not always imperative to residential sales as it is for, investors looking to
Oh
buy
yeah,
and subdivide.
you start talking about lots for builders, then yeah, you've got to call the county or the city municipality and find that out. All right, any other question on doing your homework? Can anybody think of anything that I missed on this one? Anything that y'all do before you go to a listing?
It seems like the homeowner, the HOA, CCNR are not always free. I'm just after the community manager of a listing that I have, and seems like they are selling it to me, that like it is not free to get it. Have you encountered that approach anytime, anywhere?
I've not paid for any. I'll tell you this, you can always go on the MLS, and if you've got, sometimes agents will post those with the attachments. So say you're selling a house in Moss Creek, I would look under Moss Creek previous sales, and see if anybody attached them. Now, the one thing you got to make sure is they're updated, because the ones on record with the county are not always updated. And your seller should be able to provide you with some. I wouldn't pay for them. Has anybody else in here paid for them before? No, I'm not paying for them. Maybe I need to collect them and start selling them to people. That might be a decent stream of income. Anything else anybody does before you go to a listing? All right. Courtney, you're not calling me sketchy, are you?
No, not you. I was thinking
Uh,
that whoever was
I s-
charging for it seems
I saw
sketchy.
that comment right after I told you I was going to start selling them.
I just as you said is when I hit send, I was like, yeah, no, that's not you.
All right, I trust you. Appointment toolbox. What do you take to your appointments? The last thing you want to do is show up and forget your camera, forget your sign, forget your tape measure. I've done all three of them, and it's not fun to have to drive back and do it over. It just makes you look professional when you have everything with you. Measuring tools. Everybody needs 100-foot steel tape. You get them at Lowe's. They're cheap. You can save yourself some money, learn how to measure a house yourself. A lot of these houses in subdivision are cookie cutters. I mean, literally just rectangles. Very easy to measure. And you know what? If you hire someone to measure a home, you still have a liability on you. You don't pass that liability on to the people measuring your home. Okay, it's still your responsibility because you're advertising it. Laptop and notebook. I mean, if you're going to a listing appointment, you got to make sure you're ready to. I'm bringing my laptop because I'm making sure I'm ready to sign paperwork, and if I have to do it on my laptop, I will. All your paperwork, always go to a listing appointment because I would rather get the paperwork signed right then and there than come back in a week. Again, I'm saving my time. And you know what? They may change their mind after you leave. So let's go ahead and get everything listed. Get all the paperwork done. We can delay the marketing date of the property. That's no problem. Okay, but at least you got a listing agreement signed. Does everybody know what I'm talking about when I talk about the marketing date? I know we got some newer agents on here. I don't want to assume. So a lot of times we will go, most of the time your marketing date's going to be the date that you put it in the MLS and it goes live. But what you can do if the sellers have hesitation, they want to get some work done. I always like to go ahead and get the listing agreement signed. And then I'll tell them, look, we'll put the marketing date out 2 weeks. That way it won't go live for 2 weeks. It won't go on the MLS for 2 weeks or whatever that time will be. But you have the listing agreement in hand. You have them under contract. They're a client. If you don't do that and you give them 2 weeks to do the repairs or whatever they have to do, guess what? They're being bombarded with postcards, with letters, emails, Mark Spain ads on TV, offer pad, knock. All those guys are just bombarding them over a 2-week span. They may change their mind. Okay, they may change their mind. So go ahead and get that listing agreement locked up, and then you can negotiate on the marketing date. Anybody ever had that happen with them? All right, make sure you bring your working with real estate. That's the first thing you need to talk to them about. Hopefully you've already talked to them about it. And now all you got to do is to get them to sign it. Of course, you got to bring your listing agreement with you. That's the most important. Well, the second most important thing, bring all your disclosures, your residential property disclosure, your mineral oil and gas, your lead-based paint. And finally, make sure you bring your MLS info sheet. This is one of the biggest ones that I used to forget, and it makes you look unprofessional. when I first started, I would have to call my clients back or have to come back by to see if their stove was gas or electric, if the hot water heater was gas or electric. I always forgot that because I was trying to do it all on my head or on a notebook. Bring that info sheet with you and fill it out as you go along. That way you've got all the information you need on the paper. You got all the information you need when you go home and input it into the MLS. There's no question, it's nice and easy and tidy, and you can walk away knowing you got everything you need. It saves you time, okay? You have a listing that's 30 minutes away. Last thing you want to do is make multiple trips up there. Listings are supposed to be easier and less time consuming than buyers, so don't make it more time consuming. All right, don't be afraid to answer this one honestly. Does everybody know where to get the MLS info sheet at?
I was just about to ask if it was on Dotloop, if y'all had one on Dotloop.
Who said that? Courtney. It is not. Let me show you where it is at. All right, it's on Matrix. And we don't put one on there, Courtney, for the main reason is it changes quite often.
Oh, okay.
What they require, and like Triad MLS is completely different than Canopy MLS. So if you're on there, then it is completely different. Let me share with you guys here. All right, can everybody see my desktop?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'm on Matrix. This is my Matrix dashboard. I'm going to go to Matrix, nope, resources. Resources. Here are some tools you can use and a bunch of good tools. I'm going to go to Canopy MLS Forms. Canopy MLS Forms. Notice it says the very first one is listing input forms. And the very first one you pull up is single family listing input form. So if you're listing a condo, you'd use number 2, multifamily, lots and acreage, and so on and so on. This one I think is 9 pages now, or is it 10 pages? 9 pages. Now the good thing about this is it actually highlights the categories that you absolutely have to put in Matrix. County, parcel ID, street number, street type, city, state, blah, blah, blah. Subdivision. Those elements are required in the MLS or it will not let you post it. So you don't have to fill out 9 pages worth of stuff. And there's a lot you have to fill out, but a lot of it you don't. Style, auction, bid info, listing financing, a bunch of things you don't have to fill out. So it saves you a lot of time. All right, everybody remember where I got it from?
Yes. Yes.
Resources on Canopy, on Matrix. Go to resources, Carolina MLS or Canopy MLS forms, and then go to whatever categories yours fall in. This is kind of a side note, but Paula didn't know this. These categories down here, the comp sale categories, if you do a deal with the for sale by owner, or you do a new construction deal, it's not going to show up. A lot of times it won't show up, especially the FSBOs won't show up in MLS. You can get credit through the MLS by putting your comp sales in for a for sale by owner or a new construction. And it also helps appraisers when they go to appraise properties. So I always encourage you to put those in. All right. Any questions? Can you see my PowerPoint slide?
Yes.
Okay. Lockbox sign and camera, depending on how you're going to do your pictures. Yeah, last thing you don't want to do is drive 30 minutes to a listing appointment and forget your lockbox or your sign, and I've done them all. The appointment. All right, so we've got our homework done. Got all our paperwork lined up in the car, our sign, our lockbox, our cameras in the car, our tape to measure the houses in the car. Build rapport with the folks. And I put shoes because a lot of people will recommend that you take off shoes when you go in a house. Some religions require it. Okay, some folks require you to do it, but it gives the seller a good feeling because you think enough of their house to take off your shoes. Anybody ever been asked to do that?
I wasn't asked to do it, but I noted it when I walked into a family's home and saw like a little basket of house shoes and then watched her do it. And of course I didn't have house shoes, but I was okay. So I just took mine off and.
Right. Yeah, just go ahead and make a habit of doing it. I think it really shows a sign of respect. And again, some
kind of let them follow their lead, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're in their house, you're in their domain.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. First thing you need to do after you take your shoes off, go over to working with real estate agents with them. Get them to sign it. Revisit the expectations you set on the phone call. Again, remember, you're going to have to pound this in their head because they don't sell houses every day, so they don't know what to expect. They don't know what to expect with showings. They don't know what to expect when they get an offer. What's it going to look like? What all those words mean? It's 15 pages long. I don't know how to decipher all of this. Save yourself some time and set those expectations up front. Go over the paperwork. I don't care what order you start, as long as you get the working with real estate signed first. Go over the paperwork with them. A lot of times what I'll do is get the big one out of the way, the listing agreement, and then I'll hand them the property disclosures. Now, you cannot help them fill out the property disclosures, right? So I like to walk around the house. This is when I'm filling out my MLS info sheet. This gives me time to fill out the info sheet. And honestly, once you start filling those info sheets out for properties, you list enough properties, you'll get to know what to look for. And now, typically, the only thing I need to note on there is the hot water heater, the HVAC, the stove, are they gas, or they electric, because I can never remember those things. Get to know the house. Remember, you asked them to describe the house before. So walk through it. See if what they told you was accurate. You know, is there a water stain on the ceiling? Do they have cracks in the sheetrock? Ask them about those. You know, stains on the carpet. What are they taking with them? What are they not? Are they going to fix X, Y, and Z? Are you taking that bracket holder for the TV? Are you going to take it? Or are you going to fix the big holes you left in the wall? Get to know the house. It's your responsibility, right? You're advertising it, so you should know it. And when I say get to know the house, I should put on here, get to know the property, because it is your duty to walk that property. One of the things I taught last night in my pre-licensing class was about underground storage tanks. And that is your duty to walk those properties and get to know them. Okay, get to know the signs. Are there, is it on a crawl space? Is it on a slab? MLS is going to ask you that. But look for signs of underground storage tanks or flooded areas. Let me show you something really quick. that I used last night. I assume people know this, but maybe not. Anybody got any questions while I'm looking for this slide?
Yes, Chris.
Yes.
One thing that is a bit difficult to differentiate is the hatchback. Sometimes just looking at the unit outside the house, you're wondering if this is a heat pump or a gas furnace. And I think some listing that I seen in MLS, I see that sometimes people mistake one for the others. Is any hints on how to assure just by looking at the unit outside the house, you recognize if it's a heat pump or a gas furnace?
You know, Tina, that's a great question because that's difficult for a lot of people to understand, and even myself. I like to talk to the owners because the owners will tell you typically right off the bat what it is, because they paid for it and they chosen that type of furnace or heat pump. Look at if they've got any kind of paperwork from work that's been done. I like to look at those. Anybody else got any, how they decipher what it is? Melissa, do you have any words of wisdom?
I asked the owners.
Yeah, that's Gina. That's really what I do too. Is ask the owners.
I know many times the owners doesn't know. Many times they don't know the difference between one or the other.
You can ask. You can always ask them who services their HVAC and call those folks.
Okay.
They can usually have it on record and they can tell you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Here's one I want to show you real quick. Can everybody see my slide?
Yeah.
All right,
yes.
When I talk about underground storage tanks, you see these two pipes sticking up. That's a telltale sign there's an underground storage tank. So the short pipe is what we call the fill pipe. So that's where the liquid or the whatever they're putting in there, heating oil, whatever it is, it was put in the ground. That's what they use. And then the tall pipe's the vent pipe where the gases escape, so the tank doesn't blow up, basically. Walk around the house, walk around the exterior of the house. If you got a house built, heck, I don't know, if it's out in, out away from the city, or if it's an older home, you especially need to do this. Walk around the house because typically they're going to be built close to the house. Walk around and look for those things. If you see that, that means there's an underground storage tank there, and then you gotta. It's not going to stop you from listing the property. It's not going to stop them from transferring the property to someone else, but it is a discussion you need to have. It is something that they need to address. How they're going to handle it. If they don't want to deal with it, then let them know. I got to advertise it with an underground storage tank. And that makes it a little bit less marketable. And I say this and I go back to the slide, walk the property. Know what you're selling. That is your responsibility. That should not come up on a home inspection and be a surprise because they should know it by then. Any questions about those? All right. Let them know what your marketing plan is. Please, Lord, don't tell them that you're going to stick a sign in the ground, put it on MLS, and pray for them. Give them a little bit more detail than that. You can tell them how many agents it's going to be marketed to through Canopy MLS. You can tell them how many websites we reach, what kind of social media work you're going to do for them. But just let them know what to expect, where to look for their property. And then let them know, hey, I'm going to call you every Friday and we're going to talk about what's going on with your property, whether it's under contract or not. I'm going to let you know how many showings we had, how much interest we've had on social media, how many clicks we've had on Zillow or whatever it is. That just keep the lines of communication open with them. What you don't want to do is a house not show for 4 weeks and they've never heard from the agent and they don't know if the agent gives a crap or not. So make sure you're talking to
Um, so the only 2 listings that I've had, the only 2 residential listings I've had have been, under $200,000. So they sell like, with really just being listed on the MLS.
Yeah.
Would that kind of marketing that you're talking about, is that for kind of, larger homes, more expensive, or I don't know, maybe a different kind of like not a cookie cutter type home, but maybe it's a cabin or something like that, more of a
That's a great question, Taylor. It's really not. I mean, once you put it in the MLS, right, it's going to feed out to Zillow and Realtor.com and all these other ancillary websites.
right.
But you're going to probably put it on Facebook because you want people to know that you have a new listing. You want people to know that it went under contract, and then you want people to know that it closed
Right.
above asking price. So you are going to market it. So it's not anything really different that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would still do it with the price point you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
not. I'm not spending any money using social media.
Right. Okay.
So,
So it's just like giving that perception of added value.
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So you're not just sticking a sign in the ground, putting it on the MLS and praying for them.
Okay. I gotcha.
Hey, Chris, the Showtime reports, is it better to send it to the sellers directly from the Showtime? Sometimes seems complicated for them to understand, or it's better to communicate with them, like you said, once a week, or it's better to send them an email saying that this happened to their house, this appointment,
Tina, that's a good question. I don't know if some people know what you're talking about, but I don't have time to get into those reports. But they're a very good tool on Showing Time that will show you number of appointments, all the feedback in a compressed form. To me, I'm going to talk to my clients once a week, and I'm going to go over those reports, Gina. And if they want them, I will send them to them. Because the last thing I want to do is send them a 7-page report and they're like, what in the world does this mean? Because it has no impact on them.
Yeah, I just say it because sometimes you need to leave a record of what you've been doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess it depends on what type of client you have. If you've got a really OCD client that wants that constant feedback, then yeah, I'm probably going to email them to them. If I got a little old lady that's 80 years old and been in her house forever, I'm probably not going to email her that report. You see how I'm differentiating that?
Right.
Yeah. And safety. Here's the thing, folks. You gotta watch out for yourself in these appointments. If you don't feel comfortable in them, leave. You're not obligated to put yourself at risk for a listing. Okay, there may be something in there that makes you feel uncomfortable. Review our safety policy, please, and if you have questions on them, let me know. But don't put yourself at risk when you go to a listing appointment. Not for a potential paycheck. Not worth it.
What do you mean as far as safety? Like if there's like the people are feeling off, or just like physical safety, or like health wise safety, or what do you
Either
How do you
one.
mean?
Physical safety. So if they are, heck, they might be high. Who knows? You know.
Okay.
If they're asking you to come in and stay a while, I don't know, anything that makes you feel awkward or makes you feel uncomfortable. And I hate to say it applies mostly to ladies, but I think it applies mostly to ladies. You
I'm
know,
a pretty frail
get some
man.
real skeezy people out there. So if you
Yeah, I
feel
gotcha.
uncomfortable in any way, it's just not worth you doing it. You know, take
Okay.
someone with you, refer them to someone else, or just get up and leave.
Okay.
Working with real estate agents, make sure you explain it. What part do you explain? I mean, if you're talking to a listing, then there's a section in there for listings. And remember to tell them it's not a contract, because they will be more likely to sign it if they know it's not a contract. And there's big bold print on the last page that says this is not a contract. So what do you do if they don't sign it or don't want to sign it? Do you remember the steps to take?
They need to sign it by the time they want to see the first house.
No, not really. They don't have to sign it. So what you would do is have them, or I would write on the back panel, the signature panel, that they refuse to sign it. And make sure you keep it with you. Now, what you're talking about, Alexander, is the buyer's agency agreement. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Revisit expectations. I'm going to put this up all the time. The timing, what's going to happen? When's it going to hit the MLS? When should I see it in Zillow? You know, Zillow can take 24 to 48 hours to update. What happens once we get showings? Do showings overlap? What hours are we going to allow the property to show? What happens once they get an offer in? What if we get multiple offers? Set those expectations. Okay. And then once you get it under contract, then of course you start talking about home inspections and appraisals, closing dates, due diligence dates, and whatnot. Set the expectations for showings, set the expectations for offers. What do you expect in negotiations? So most people don't understand the financial terms of an offer. Make sure you explain to your folks that it's not just about the dollar amount, the offer price. It's about the due diligence fee. It's about the earnest money, seller paid closing cost, the date, the due diligence dates, the closing dates, the type of loan they're going to get. You know, if they're getting a VA loan, what do you expect then? What kind of expectations do you have with the appraisal? So there's a ton of different expectations you need to set with them. And you know what? If you want to, I think Jenna Cook has done a YouTube video of some of this stuff. You know, make a YouTube video and explain it. That way you say, hey, I'm going to send you an email with expectations on what we can expect with an offer. Write up a document and have it. That way you're not explaining things multiple times. Due diligence and home inspections, and then what to expect at closing. When are they going to get their check? A lot of people go to closing and they think they're going to get a check as soon as they hand the keys over. And you know, if you've done any closing, that's just not the case. So make sure you set those expectations up front. We talked about that already, kind of redundant. Marketing plan, and here kind of answers your question as well, Taylor. Open houses, print media? Are you going to post? Are you going to do any postcards? Again, for the type of property that you're talking about, if it's in a neighborhood, you may want to do some print just to drum up more business later on. But let them know what your marketing plan is and what's been successful for you. Follow up. What's the best way to contact the seller? Can I contact you by text, email, or phone call? If somebody says they want a text, I say hallelujah, because that's the way I like to communicate. But know what's best for them. If it's an 80-year-old lady that lives, that lived in her house for 50 years, she may not like to text. Maybe you have to call her. Maybe you got to go by and knock on the door. What's the best time to reach you? I'm going to be calling you on every Friday, so I need to know what's the best time to reach you so we can discuss the previous week's happening and what's coming up the next week. How often are you going to follow up with them? Maybe it's every week. Maybe it's every 2 weeks. You know what, Deanna, back to your original question about pricing, maybe this is something you can put in there. I'm going to follow up with you every week with detailed reports from showing time, number of clicks on Zillow, things like that. That's kind of a value added process. Maybe you can get a little bit more commission out of that. There are OCD people out there, the accountant and the engineer types that like that stuff, that would maybe pay for that stuff. Nobody likes to do this, especially in today's market, but discuss price adjustments. Notice I didn't say price decrease, I just said adjustment. How are you going to handle that? What's going to trigger that conversation? I used to tell my folks, if we don't have a showing or an offer within 2 weeks or 10 showings, then we need to have a talk about a price adjustment. Well, now I don't know if that might be 1 week and 50 showings, because the way the market is. So have that discussion with them. Go ahead and have it up front, because the last thing you want to do is have that discussion with them after their house has been on the market a month and hadn't had any showings or any offers. And they're the only house on the block that hasn't moved. And everything they see on the news and HGTV is that houses are selling within 18 hours and theirs isn't. Now they're getting pissed off. Okay. Couple more points. Safety, as we talk about, don't put yourself in a bad situation. If you feel uncomfortable, call somebody. If you feel uncomfortable, walk away from it. Parking, always park so your car is headed out and you can't be boxed in. Even me, 6'5", I park on the road with my car pointing away so I don't get trapped in. And I'm not going to be pointed toward the end of a cul-de-sac. Walk through the house, don't get cornered. Let your customer lead you. Don't let them behind you. Anybody else have any comments on safety? Anything you've ever ran into or any recommendations you have? Wendell Rummage has taught a safety class here, and since then he's come on board as our broker in charge in Kannapolis, so I imagine he'll be doing it soon as well. Again, take somebody with you if you want. If I'm available, I'll go with you. I had an agent when I worked for another company that called me from our Mooresville office, and she came down. She had a showing in Kannapolis. She knew me from a class we had taken. She said, "Hey, will you go with me to this showing?" And we went, and everything was fine. But again, don't do it just for the potential commission. Not worth it.
How do you usually explain that to the person, whether it be a showing or a listing or whatever, that you have another agent? I mean, I'm perfectly fine with telling people, hey, I don't know you, but I guess a more professional way of dealing with it.
Paula takes her husband to everyone. You know, I've got tell them you're bringing a colleague that is, maybe that's a new agent that's shadowing you,
Oh, okay.
something like that, you know?
Okay.
And I'm available too. I'm a new agent, so I would love the experience, but you know, if anyone's willing, but I'm also available if anyone, you know, wants to have someone along with them.
There
Well, thank you.
go.
I appreciate that. My teenage sons don't necessarily have the right attitude.
Typically they don't.
They're physically intimidating, but you know, not very professional.
All right, this is the last slide I've got. Ahas, what did you learn on, what are the benefits of working with sellers? What's your thoughts?
Well, I haven't had many sellers, but the little I have, I kind of like more working with listing than with buyers.
Mm-hmm,
I find it less time consuming.
mm-hmm.
You can work more like from the house.
There you go.
And
If you put a
yeah.
dollar amount on your time, you will want to work with sellers more. Because yeah, you do save, typically you can save time and you can manage a lot more sellers at the same time than you can buyers. I've got 2 buyers right now in South Carolina, and I don't have time to deal with buyers in South Carolina. Thankfully, they're in a good price point. But it's running me ragged. And the other one, I got another one in Charlotte. So I'd much rather list their houses than help them buy. What do you think about working with sellers? Like it, hate it? Some people like working with buyers. I'm not wired like that. Alicia, do you like working with buyers? Girl, you're different than I thought. The only good thing about them is if you get a pre-approved buyer, you know they're going to sell. You know they're going to buy, right? So you know the transaction, the payday's coming. What do you think the biggest challenges are with sellers?
They think their house is worth more than it is.
Price, yes. You got to talk to them about why tax values does not equal market value. You got to talk to them about what a Zestimate is on Zillow and why it's not accurate. You got to tell them that HGTV is bullcrap and quit watching it.
A lot of what I've come in contact with is they put emotional value to it. And I have to explain to them yes, that's a very sweet story and that's wonderful, but that's your granny, not theirs.
Yep.
So that's not going to have any value to them.
You know, one of the things I've done is you can print out, if you do a CMA, print out or show them on a computer their competition. Look, your granny still has a pink tile bathroom and wallpaper with flowers on it, while your competition has LVP flooring, beautifully painted, you know, updated cabinets. Their toilet's not pink or avocado green. You know, those things. If you show them, you know, physically show it to them, that emotional attachment starts to lessen a little bit. It may not help everybody, but it could help soften the blow a little bit too. Anybody else got any comments or questions before we sign off?
Yes, Chris. Oh, sorry.
No,
Dina,
you're fine. For the biggest challenges, I would say talking about that would be more like negotiation with the price, the percentage. I get that's probably that one and the other emotional, you know, tie on their home, not, you know, thinking that it's bigger and better than it really is. And then on top of that, you're having to negotiate your percentage on why you feel like you're owed 3%. And they're like, no, I think you're only owed, you know, this much. And
that's a good point, Deanna, that's a good point about commission, because a lot of people get knotted up or anxiety over talking about commission. What I have found is I've never lost one over commission, and I don't typically discount mine unless they're going to buy with me. But I always, we get to that point in the listing agreement and it'll say 6%. And then they will ask, you know, they will say, is that the best you can do? And yeah, that's what my firm charges. So if I've already got the paperwork in front of you, odds are they're ready to list, right? So I've always told them 6%. I always tell them that's what my firm charges, because that's what you got to tell, right? And I don't find that many problems with it, quite honestly. I really don't. I don't find people, if you're strong and you're confident about what you're doing, I don't think you're going to have as much pushback as you think.
Well, I feel like I'm strong when I talk to the sellers. I feel like I'm very confident in what, you know, in what I present to them. But they're always, I get some of the crazy ones, but they're always wanting to negotiate that percentage. Always.
So the other thing I just show them, when you go on the listing agreement, you talk about how much you're going to get paid, the 6%, right? And I'll say, well, let's refer down to this column, and I think it's the next page. It shows what you're paying the buyer's agent. So they're going to take half of what I get. I always make sure I point that out together, because I don't want them to think I'm getting 6%.
Right.
Because if they think you're getting 6%, they're like, wow, I need to be a real estate agent. Because you all drive around in Cadillacs and show $1 million homes all day.
Yeah, that's what we do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Mine's a little shorter Cadillac and a Japanese version, but with a hatchback. But so yeah, commission, especially nowadays, man, they don't. A lot of them, even more of them than ever, feel like they don't need us because, you know, hot market. There's no inventory. Paula pulled numbers yesterday. There were 11 houses listed in China Grove. Let's get 11. I think there were 8 in Landis.
Oh my God.
I know there's smaller towns, but geez, there's nothing for sale, you know? So helping add that value and confidence is another big one. And you know what? Stand up for yourself. Tell them that you can't. That's what your firm charges, and that's what it's going to be.
Another question. I saw another real estate agent do this about like she was advertising that she wanted to list, she needed more listings, right? So she said, I've got a incentive that I can give you $250 off of your price, you know, of your of the percentage or your listing fee or something like that. Is that allowed, or where do you draw the line on that?
I haven't seen that. I don't think there's anything against that. But how are you going to give it to them off, right? You can't give it back to them as a rebate at closing, because the lender's going to throw up a red flag if you do that.
Right. That's why I was just asking. I've seen that advertised before, and I'm like,
I think you'd be better off advertising 5% or 5.5% or whatever, you know, that way, instead of, because yeah, you get into kind of.
well, I think because, you know, when people think about percentage, you know, I think it's just the value of the money. Like if they saw it $500 off instead of a percentage, maybe that entices them to go, oh, okay, I understand the value, you know, the monetary money, like the 500, the value of that, the amount versus the percentage.
Yeah.
They just, you know, some people just don't understand the percentage.
You know, you could, yeah, I mean, now that you're talking about it, it may not be a bad idea. You know, tell them I'll give you $1,000 off. I mean, I'm going to charge you 6%, but I'll give you $1,000 off of that commission. You know, yeah, that's a good point. Heck, you might have just given me a new marketing tool.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen it done by someone, so I was just wondering if that was allowed and what the boundary line is on that.
Deanna, I can't think of a rule that would not allow it.
Okay.
And as far as we're concerned at Landern, I mean, and I tell people this, look, we're going to get our $300. We don't care if the commission's $305, right? Or I mean,
Right.
that's not a good example, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's kind of like a marketing tool though. So I just want to make sure that, you know, when you market that, are we doing the right thing and we're not crossing, you know, a bad situation?
No, I don't think so. You might get some dirty looks when we go to the next Realtor Association lunch, but no, I don't think you are.
Okay.
Sheena, did you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I had two quick concerns. Once the house is under contract and you're dealing with the attorney send a message saying, we represent the buyer. I mean, why will they say they represent the buyer? Aren't they supposed to be mediator between the two clients?
No, they are hired by the buyer. The buyer's the one going to be paying their fees. So yeah, they're going to tell you they're hired by the buyer and they represent the buyer. All they're doing for you is a title search.
Yeah, but then the second concern is they send to my client seller to open account in order they send information back and forward to them. So once they said that, I'm concerned what question are they asking to my client seller, because if they represent the buyer, then I will be kind of hesitant to let them create an account with them. You know what I mean?
Like a email account, secured email account?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that causes any kind of concerns because they're just trying to protect the information. That's just a secured email, so you can send confidential information. Now, they shouldn't be sharing that information with anyone. Now what actually happens behind the scenes, I can't tell you, but.
Okay.
Anybody else got any questions or concerns? Comments?
In regards to the commission rates and stuff we were talking about earlier, giving discounts and things, and perhaps I'm just stingy with my money. I mean, we're going to work our butts off whether we're working for the sellers or the buyers. I tend to try to, with my sellers, list what it is that I'm going to be doing for them, because I usually cover, you know, the photographs, or if they do a drone video and things like that, and I'll add up how much those are and show them, you know, a number of, okay, this is what I'm offering you coming out of my pocket,
right?
Because I believe in this and I'm going to, you know, to work hard for it, as opposed to say giving them a discount off the commission, because then I'm losing money twice.
Right.
You know, if I'm going to spend $1,000 advertising for you and then you want another $1,000 off, I've just lost $2,000.
Right.
Out of commission. So, but again, that may just be me. I'm more stingy with what it is that I want to bring home.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, put a dollar value to it. Tell them, you know, I'm going to be spending, I don't know, $1,000 in photographs, measurements, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point, Courtney. Anybody else? I've got to go.
Chris,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question, and I just need an opinion. Like when some agents list a home or whatever, say they list it for 6%, but then they put the buyer's commission is going to be 2.5%.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the buyer's agent don't find out the real truth until closing. How do you feel about that? I mean, because like with the added expense that we spend as a seller's agent, is that kosher to kind of add 0.5%? I mean, most of the sellers don't really care, but
right. There's nothing. I mean, there's nothing in our realtor guidelines against that. Yeah, you get some dirty looks at the closing table.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, especially if I'm the listing agent and I'm making 3.5%, I don't have a problem with it. Now, I don't do it, but I don't have a problem with it. If I'm going to spend money on, some of your higher end properties, getting some really nice pictures done, and you do an open house where you have to get it catered and those things, yeah, I'm probably going to do it.
Okay.
I don't know. What's your opinion?
Well, I've been on
Sounds like you were on the
both
wrong end.
sides. Yeah, I was on the wrong end recently, and it did give me a bad vibe, especially when I seen that agent bought a new car and went on this nice vacation. I'm like, yeah, I helped pay for that.
Yeah.
But then again, I see the other side too, because you are spending more money that the buyer's agent's not spending.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've had
Lynette, are you seeing? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think I'm seeing that happen a lot with listings specifically in Rowan County. Are you all seeing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot too.
And whereas I understand, again, from both sides, you're putting more money up front and the buyers, aren't doing money wise as much as the listing agents are. We're putting in the time. We're doing, we're running all the other stuff. And I would just request, because this just recently happened to me, is put it in the MLS, list it, make sure that your buyer agent is aware. Are you okay? Did you see where the commission was? It just be nice about it. That way we're not surprised at closing.
See, I don't think anybody's going to put in MLS. They don't have to, they're going to put in there what you're getting, and you get, I hate to say it like this, but you get what you get, right? And you don't pitch a fit. That's what I teach my kids. And, nowadays, if we can get one under contract, we literally take what we can get. Yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say it's dirty, but it's kind of frowned upon, but there's nothing illegal or unethical about it. All right, anybody else got anything? All right, well, thank you all. And this has been recorded. It will be up on YouTube probably by the end of the day. So thank you all for your patience. I appreciate you guys. And if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, let me know. Y'all have a good one.
Thank Chris.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.